different. For this texting questions, to save some time, instead of passing around the mic, what I'm going to do is my number is right there. If you think of a question while they are talking, text me. And then at the very end, after they each have spoken, I'm going to try to bundle up the questions and then just ask them directly from here, so we're not passing the mic around. If you don't have access to a phone and you still want to just talk into the mic, feel free. But I just thought that might help y'all out. Okay? Who wants to go first?
I'm supposed to wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Murray. I have 2 children that have gone through Sunshine Cottage. My oldest daughter, Libby, is 6, and she's in 1st grade this year. And we just transitioned her from Sunshine to an elementary school here in town. I have another daughter who's 3, and she's in preschool here at Sunshine Cottage, and she'll probably stay pre-K, possibly kindergarten, we'll see. But it's a little about us. We've been here since they were both 0. Like, they were born and we came here. So Heidi gave us some questions that she wanted us to answer to kind of give you guys information about transitioning to public school. It's really, you are your advocate for your child, so you have to arm yourself with the knowledge and then teach your child, give your child the tools to learn how to advocate for themselves. Because I can't be there in public school with my daughter with 21 other kids and say, remember, you have to tell her to turn her F-home on, you have to tell her to mute the button when she goes to the bathroom, you have to tell her all of these things. So it's really up to us to teach our children to be their own advocate. We decided to transition Libby to public elementary school because she had blossomed in kindergarten. She did PIP, 0, 1, 2, 3, and then preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, and she was at the point, she's implanted bilaterally, I'm sorry, she has a profound hearing loss. So she has 2 cochlear implants. And she was at the point where she was ready. I mean, she had a great kindergarten year. She was reading, she was ready to go. She was speaking, she was being released from speech therapy, and we just decided, along with Mr. Bryan and her teacher last year, Ms. Cliver, that it was time she was ready. And how did I decide on the school? I actually interviewed Northside, Northeast, and Comal Independent School District, and you can do this too. Whatever school district you live in, just call the local elementary school that you're zoned for and ask to talk to the counselor. And the counselor a lot of times is the first person that, in my experience, that can help you get you to the right people. They can tell you who the AI teacher is, which is, they call it auditory impairment itinerant teacher. So she's the AI teacher. And based off of that, I decided that Comal was the best school district for us. The next question is, how did you approach the school and how did they respond? When I first interviewed with Northside, which we were in a Northside elementary school, and it took so I started this process in September of, 2016? September of 2015, knowing that I was going to transition her in August of 2016. So about a year ahead, I started just questioning, calling, talking to people, and there's a lot that you learn just from how if they answer your phone, if they call you back, there's a lot of things that you learn about the school and the staff there. It took a long time. It actually took about 2 months for Northside to finally get back to me. I had a few questions, and she couldn't answer any of my questions, so she said she was going to assemble a panel, so I walked into a room with 8 professionals just to answer a few questions. That when I went to Comal, I walked in the room, and the one AI teacher had answers for all the questions. So it was less red tape, in my opinion. So Libby went in, and on day 1, she had an FM system waiting for her, and they had old sound fields at that school, but they just bought a brand new FM for Libby and 2 other hearing impaired students at the school that the existing sound fields weren't compatible with the new technology. So on September 1st, they actually bought a brand new sound field for her classroom. Like one of those big phone towers. I mean, it's Barbara Talamantes. She's the AI teacher for Comal, and she's wonderful, wonderful. And then if I could come back to Sunshine Cottage and start over, what else could Sunshine Cottage do to help you? That's a really hard question because it's all what you take out of it. You know, you constantly have teachers telling you, read to your children, do this, do that, talk to them, narrate their day, you know, bathe them with language. And it's if you do that, like every single day, you're exhausted, but you see the rewards. Like, I mean, to hear her reading, and just a couple days ago, her teacher gave her the 2nd grade sight words, and she's in 1st grade because she already knew all the 1st grade. So then she goes down the list and read all the 2nd grade sight words, and I'm like, she already knows them. So it's just talking to her, constantly reading to her. We never did any kind of flashcards or whatever, all that ABC meant. We didn't do any of that. We just read to her. So I don't really think there's anything else we could have started over and gotten out of Sunshine Cottage School. That's our story.
My name is Missy Smedley, and I have 2 children. One that is already graduated from Sunshine Cottage, and then I have who is my hearing impaired. She has 2 hearing aids. And then I have my typical hearing still here at Sunshine Cottage. So we giggle that our hearing impaired goes to a typical school, and our typical child goes to a hearing impaired school. The first question is, why did I decide to transition? Because Mr. Pfeiffer would not let me repeat his class. Plain and simple. I had to go. So I am one that transitioned and graduated from this school. How did I decide on a school? I started long before 5th grade. I toured 18 schools. I have toured public schools, private schools, special needs schools. My daughter also has delays, cognitive delays. So we are not just looking at hearing impaired. It was a very hard process. I would just disappear for a day and go tour. There are lots of resources out there besides just calling the schools. A lot of Chamber of Commerce's has teams set up to know all the superintendents, all the counselors throughout all the schools in their district. I had in Austin, I actually knew someone for the Chamber of Commerce that worked on the education team. So to tour Austin, I had an inside person. And everybody can have that inside person by just calling your Chamber of Commerce and find out if they have it. They are there, they are underutilized. They fed me so much information that it was extremely overwhelming. I finally had to say, I've got all the information I need no more. Because people don't know they're out there. But I am here to talk about private school because that is the route we ended up deciding. And because my daughter has cognitive delays too, but she is not at the level of special education. I would go to special education schools and they would say, well, she's a little bit too high functioning for what we have to offer. This is not the right school for her. And I fell in love with a couple of the schools. I toured Monarch Academy here, a beautiful school. Tuttle over in Houston and Notre Dame in Dallas. But she was too advanced for there. But yet, she's not there for mainstream school. She's too low. So there's this middle, this gray, and if there's any parents out there, that is a very hard place to be. The best advice I got, and this is how we finally made our decision, was I sat down with Mr. Pfeiffer. I've over-researched, looked at way too much, and I just looked at him and said, I can't find this school. And he informed me, yes, you are one of the great people. You're in this in-between of an IQ of 70 and 86. Those kids have not been discovered, and the parents have not advocated enough that the school district has realized that there is this gap. He says, you're not going to find the right school. You have to change your words. You have to change your word from right to best. What is the best school for Anna out of all the schools you went to? Because right is not an option. So from Mr. Pfeiffer, that's what I got, and that's how I made my decision. What was the best school for my child? We went with private school. We went with a Catholic school. We are not Catholic, but Catholic has a very loving community. And because of my child being in that gray area, that's what we needed. And in the private school sectors, if you choose Catholic, there is something called Hope for Tomorrow, Hope for the Future, and it is an organization through scholarships, so you can get scholarships to go to a Catholic school. So we chose community. But with private schools, You don't get an FM system. You don't get any of that. You can look for our school. I go to St. Anthony. Our school does have tutoring that is free. And they do have people that come in throughout the day and pull her out to do one-on-one a couple of hours a day, and that is free. But there's no speech therapy, none of those resources. Those are left up to you on your own to do. So I don't really get much resources. And I don't know if I would do anything different if I came back to Sunshine Cottage. There's been some wonderful people here that's helped us and walked us through a lot of stuff. And we had a really good experience. So,
my name's Jill Whitaker, and we have 3 boys. 2 are hearing impaired, and middle has extra hearing for the rest of us that can't hear. But the oldest is 11, it's Patrick, and he started here in the PIP program for a year, and then he did preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten. And the reason that we mainstreamed him is because we're military, and so we moved to Maryland where we don't have a Sunshine Cottage. And there's similar schools across the country, but nothing like Sunshine Cottage. I consider driving an hour to get the morning program, but anyway, we just decided, okay, let's be realistic and look at what our options are. So we started out with private school, and kind of like what Missy was saying, we wanted more of a nurturing environment. I grew up in Catholic private school, so it was kind of familiar to me. Thankfully through the military, our insurance was able to help with the FM system, so we had our own FM system. So when I was looking for a school, what I was calling and on the phone and asking questions before I even went to visit was, I have a hearing impaired child, we have equipment. Is your school open to working with us and having a teacher wear an FM system? And I thought it was kind of a silly question to ask, but I'm like, I should ask the question. But I actually came across schools that were not as willing to help, which I was really surprised in the Catholic school. So I did have a school that kind of hesitated, and then they said, well, I think there's a hearing impaired child at such and such Catholic school, and maybe that would be a better fit for you. And I knew that wasn't the case. Just the experience of having one hearing impaired child does not make that school a better fit. But as soon as you tell me that you're not willing to learn for 5 minutes about this piece of equipment that you just wear like a microphone, and then I think I do want to look for something else. So that was more about their reception to, how interested they were in learning about his needs, which were very minimal. He's an A student. He always did really well here, and so he doesn't qualify for speech, he doesn't qualify for extra services. But every hearing impaired child has challenges, and I wanted them to just understand that and work with him on some things. So after calling on the phone and asking that simple question and a few others, then I went to visit. And what I was looking for, and mind you, this is all in Maryland, so I wish I could speak to specific schools here, but my experience was in Maryland. And the big thing that I was looking for was the environment and what was it going to be like with his hearing aids. Some schools operated more in a, within the classroom, I don't want to say it's a free-for-all, but it was a little more open, like a couple of groups working all at the same time, and it was more of a free movement. And even out in the hallway, you could hear the noise level was much louder, and so automatically going into those schools, I knew that wasn't going to work. It just wasn't the right acoustics. So I just kept going around until I, found the right school that was receptive to working with the equipment, and the environment seemed good, and all that all worked out. But we were there for 2 years, and after 2 years, didn't feel like we were really. They weren't really, they offered no services, so there was no speech. Not that he necessarily qualified for it, but we felt like he was falling behind because they didn't really see his needs as far as vocabulary, as far as, do you understand? Yes. He's going to say yes, but he doesn't really understand, and you have to dig a little deeper to get that, really know whether or not he's hearing and understanding what you're saying. So we, after 2 years, we're still in the same town, we opted to switch to a public school because we thought, at least we're not paying for it. And we went with the school district where we were assigned. It was one of the better schools as far as what our options were. And they were very receptive to working with them. They automatically, put a FM system in place. We didn't have to use our own private FM system. They provided equipment. They had the sound field. So it was a different experience. But what I took away from it in working both with the private and the public schools is that, one's not better than the other, and each one is individual, and each teacher is individual. And sometimes you're going to have a great teacher at a not so great school, or you could have a not so good teacher at a great school. And so you just kind of have to be a little bit flexible with that. And like they were saying, be your child's best advocate, stay on top of things, make sure that, if it's a public school, you're meeting with the teacher and following up on equipment issues and things like that. But there's not a perfect answer, and it's very individual, I think, to your child and to the school and to the teacher and to the administrators. So there's hours, weeks, months of research that you can do, and in the end, I think you do have to find the best option, because there's probably not going to be, like Missy said, just the right fit that if you look long enough, you'll find it. At some point, you have to just say, we're going to make this work, and we're going to do the best for our child in this situation. So he's doing pretty good, though, I have to say. We're happy with Sunshine Cottage and everything that we've had up until this point. He's thriving, and I think it's all because of the foundation that we got here. And now the reason I'm back is he's in public school here. We now have a third 3-year-old is hearing impaired, so he's back here in the preschool program, and we're very happy to have the resources here that we have, and we're going to take advantage of it as long as we can until he takes out.
Okay, thank you all. You just eliminated everything on my list, so I have nothing to talk about. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mike Pfeiffer. I'm the 5th grade teacher here at Sunshine Cottage. Just briefly, a little bit about my background. We came here in 1999 when we got custody of our grandchildren. I have 2 hearing impaired granddaughters and a special needs grandson. And we were living in South Carolina, and we found out we were getting custody of hearing impaired. I did the research, and they said everybody needs to come to Sunshine Cottage. That's where we started. Over the years, I've done a lot of different things with Sunshine, with PTG, and now being a teacher. It's been a blessing to be here. And having said that, now a little bit about me. Like I said, they did go over my entire list. So I'm going to hit a few other things. One is timelines. Everybody here eventually is going to transition out of Sunshine Cottage. Whether you want to go or not, the time comes when you get to my class in 5th grade, and I sit down in your CST, and I say, this is the last CST you're ever going to come to, and once the crying is done, then we get down to business. But what I want to say about that is some of you will transition out at kindergarten, some will transition out after PIP, some will transition out at 1st grade, 2nd grade. If at any time you're thinking about it, and by the way, this goes for not only hearing impaired, but typical hearing students, if you're thinking about transitioning out, the first thing you need to do as early as possible in the current school year is talk to your teacher. Heidi was kind to say I'm the expert on this. No, I'm not. This school is full of experts on transitioning programs, everything from our PIP advocates through every teacher here. We all have our binders, we've all gone through the training. So if you're even thinking about it, the first thing you do is talk to your teacher. Find out what your student really needs. And then they will go through, if you're ready to leave now, probably an intense program of preparing you to be the advocate that all 3 of these spoke to. You are the advocate for your child. When they leave here, at whatever age, you're going to go meet those 8 professionals on the other side of the table to answer 3 or 4 questions, and they're going to start making decisions. And the better informed you are, the easier it is for you to sit on your side of the table and say yes or no or how about. And that's what the advocacy program is all about here at Sunshine, is how do we get you ready to leave from here. If you're typical hearing or if you're hearing impaired, one of the biggest things you have to do is do your research. And you heard from all three of the parents up here. Do your research. There's more than just one school out there that your child can go to. If you're in a district and you want to stay in the public school, there's options there. Do your research. Find out. If they're hearing impaired students, find out what services are within the different schools. Even in the same district, some of the services are going to be different based on that school's population. If you're typical hearing, same thing. If your child is typical hearing and you're looking at transitioning out, do your research. What do those schools offer? Do they have special programs if your child's a straight A student? Do they bus children out to gifted and talented programs? And that goes for hearing impaired because we have some bringing hearing impaired also. But find out what are those extracurriculars and what are those options for your students. And for those of you that are here, if you don't have a transition binder, make sure you have one and start bringing that to your ACTs, because that's going to be your roadmap to success for your student whenever they decide to leave. Typical hearing parents, same thing. You've probably never heard about the transition binder, but if you're here and you have a typical hearing child, you need to have all the information ready to bring to the next school. So that when you go in and you visit the school and you talk to them and they ask questions about your students, well, what type of tests are they taking? How well do they perform on the Stanford? If they're early childhood, they're talking, and I don't know enough about how many out for early childhood. Core advantage, thank you. I was going to say core values. That goes back to my military days. Jill's shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about. Core advantage, that's across the state nowadays. So the schools are going to want to know how well your students are performing here. They're going to talk about STAR tests if you're 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Well, we don't really do that. So that's not going to be a part. But create all that information. Get with your teachers. Ask for help. That's the best advice I can give you right now. And don't wait. If you're looking at transitioning out at the end of this year, and you wait till April, there's no way you're going to sit down with that school, if you're hearing impaired, and have everything ready by August. What I'm telling my parents, when I meet to them, if they haven't already visited the schools that they are looking at, you're behind the power curve. You need to get into the schools now, as parents, and look at the schools and start asking questions. Not just one school, but every possible school that you're thinking about. In March is when you take your child to the school, typical hearing or otherwise, because they need to know what's going on in the school. And my time is about up. So time, probably went over time because I'm real bad about doing that. But it's all timing, and the timing starts now. Get with your teachers. That should be it for now. I'll shut up. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Y'all did awesome. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask some questions, and then we'll finish it up. The first one, does Sunshine provide a referral letter for children to go to Alamo Heights District? Mr. Pfeiffer, I'll let you answer that. Or
Mr. Bryan.
Mr. Bryan?
Yeah. If you are out of the district, the question about referral letters if somebody wants to go to Alamo Heights.
Excuse me again, say again.
A question about, do we provide referral letters for Alamo Heights?
No.
And then the bottom line there is no, we don't have a working agreement with Alamo Heights yet, or anymore. We did have, we do not anymore. If you're looking at an out-of-district school, you need to go to the school district headquarters of where you want to go. So if you're looking at Alamo Heights, you need to go to Alamo Heights Independent School District, tell them who you are, where you're transitioning from, and what their guidelines are. There's nothing automatic about this. You know, if you're looking at going to a different, and that's true for whatever school district you want to go into. There's no guarantee. It's kind of a lottery system. They only have so many slots, and they may just flat out say no, depending on qualifications and services needed and everything else. We will help you through that process if you like. We'll teach you how to do that through the transition program and get you prepared to go and who to contact and how to work it, but that we really can't provide any personal references or anything else. If the school district asks us, we might be able to fill out a questionnaire for them, but that's really about all we can do.
Okay, I have another school-related question. It says, we have a really good welcoming committee, which is the PIP. What about having a transitioning team of professionals to help guide a family into that process?
We have, you have a CST team. Everybody here has a child study team. Those are the professionals that you should be working with. That's your professional audiologist that knows your child backwards and forward. That's the speech pathologist that knows your child backwards and forward. The teacher that they currently have knows what your child needs in the classroom. So do we have a transitional team? That's the best transitional team I can give you. If you have questions outside of that transitional team, outside of your CST, your circle of experts, then they can go out and research or help you research answers. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
If it doesn't, feel free to email me and we can, and I also put the email addresses of each one of them, so if you have a specific question regarding public or private that you think of later, that's why those are up there. This is a good one. I have a hearing child in 3rd grade that doesn't want to transition because he doesn't want to leave his school. I'm uncomfortable with forcing him to transfer even though I want him to mainstream. So how do you address that issue? Do you just keep going? Because our intentions of doing this was by no means for any of us to think that there is something wrong with our child. I have a hearing impaired child. There is nothing wrong with him. He knows it too. And even my daughter has friends that say, what's that in his ears? And she will say, that's his earwax. I mean, literally, there's hearing aids coming out of his, magnets coming out. And there's no difference between my daughter, who's typical hearing, and my son. So by us doing this is really a form of advocacy for us. Learning questions to ask, who to approach, because it's a big deal. And we're all going to transition eventually, because we only go up to 5th grade. Now, if they decide to go past into 12th grade, then we don't have to worry about this. So talk to Mr. Bryan. I just wanted that to be clear, okay? Because there's nothing wrong with our children. This is just something that we need to prepare for because we know it will happen. But as far as encouraging your child to leave Sunshine Cottage, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I have my one that graduated, and it would have been very easily for me to take my typical hearing child and move him over. I would have one school to pick up, I would have one school to volunteer at, and everything. But my typical hearing did not want to leave his friends at Sunshine Cottage, so we are still here. I left it up to him. I gave him the choice. They know when they're ready. I mean, our kids are brilliant. They know themselves, they know their personality, and if they're happy and it works for the family, and you can make it work, then let them make the decision. That is just my personal belief.
And I'm going to add a little bit to that, because this is concerning even when they're in the 5th grade and they have to go. They don't want to go. Nobody likes to leave Sunshine Cottage. That's why all of our teachers retire here. And then they come back as substitutes. Getting your child, 3rd grade, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 4th grade, it doesn't matter what grade, getting your child involved within the community that you're at and making them aware of where they're going. And that's why I say, come March, when we're out for 2 weeks and they only get 1 week, taking your child, 3rd grade or whoever, into the school, walking them through the school, letting them see what the classrooms are like in the lunchroom, letting them see the playground and talk to other students, get them involved, maybe Little League, or taking them to the local park to meet kids so they can build a bond that way and have a little bit more of a reason. It would be another way of helping that transition, because nobody wants to leave. But a lot of it is fear of, where am I going? I won't have any friends. So you really have to get out. And this is typical hearing and hearing impaired. One thing I did with my girls is they were always very active outside of school. They were swimmers, they took dancing and all those. So they built relationships outside of Sunshine. And then it's a little less scary.
How do you interview different districts for your child? I understood that we'd have to attend whichever district area we live in. Is there a way to go to a better district for your child? So So we kind of covered it, and then Cindy, there's another question that kind of goes along with you. It's directed towards you, so.
When I interviewed different districts, we were actually thinking about moving, but we hadn't decided where we were going to move to, so that's what I did. Before, we actually purchased our house based on the school that we were just in that situation that we needed to move anyway, and so did I stay in the same school we're at, or I went and interviewed another public school and then another school, and then based on all the factors we chose one. So that's what I meant, I'm sorry.
For Cindy, what services does Libby get at a public school? Does she get pulled from class or anything, or is there a deaf education teacher that visits her in class?
Okay, she doesn't get pulled from class. She does have an AI teacher who checks on her, and she did qualify for an IEP, but only with self-advocacy goals, really. But we're going to continue with that, and the AI teacher is, in the IEP it's written, I should have brought my transition binder. I did meet with Mr. Pfeiffer one time before we left, and he helped me get it together, and I had a few questions for him, and he helped a lot. But I do have a transition binder, it has everything in it, keeps everything together. In the IEP it says, I think we have the AI teacher once every 90 days, she spends 15 minutes with Libby, which really isn't a lot of time, which is why I'm volunteering in the classroom every Tuesday, and I'm watching, and I'm seeing everything that's happening. And then I'm there every Thursday in the library, going by the classroom and watching and seeing everything that's happening. And I just made myself known there. And one day I walked in, and the teacher didn't have her FM on, and immediately she came to me and said, oh, we had a substitute yesterday, and she forgot to charge it. I was like, okay, but that really was the first time that had happened, but she felt so bad, and she knew how important it was that she told me right away as soon as she saw me. So Libby just receives, she has an FM system, and then they have a sound field. And that's pretty much it. We also wrote in there to receive vocabulary words the Friday before, the sight words the Friday before the week that they're going to be introduced. But as she gets older, there will be different things that we'll add to that. Like we want, to pre-teach her certain lessons, to give us the information before it's given to the rest of the class, and things like that. But right now she's just first grade, so.
That was good. I have one for Missy. Sure.
I just wanted to say real quick, she mentioned the IEP.
Can you explain that? I'm hearing
Yes. Well, so there's a couple of things, and it all depends, again, it's unique to your child.
It's an individual education plan.
Yes, but not every child who's hearing impaired qualifies for an IEP. So in order to get an IEP, you test, and it's based on academics and your hearing impairment and all kinds of things. It's all factored in. And so you set goals within that IEP, but an IEP is going to give you actually more, they're going to do more for you with an IEP. The other option is if you don't qualify for an IEP, then you would qualify for the 504, which means you have equipment, and so you might need to be accommodated in a classroom, but you may not qualify for speech. So as long as your child's hearing impaired, you will get some accommodations, but it might only be 504 or it might be an IEP. But either way, the team at the school, you'll meet with them and they'll talk very specifically about what your child needs. Like, he needs to sit at the front of the classroom so that he can see visually and be able to read the lips, because that helps with listening. Or, don't put him near the door, or, so there's very specific things, and they'll talk about it with your child, like she was saying, vocabulary words. So it's very unique to your child and you just have to kind of figure out what your child needs, and when you go to those meetings, whether it's 504 or IEP, just be prepared to say, this is what I want for my child. We have the FM system, but we're not required, he doesn't really want to wear it. So we write it in there that he should wear it, and they have to check him, but it's not necessary if he doesn't need to use it, if he's doing fine without it. So it's all very individual to your child. Nothing's going to happen automatically, so you kind of have to say, this is what we want, or we don't need this, and so let's not make it a big issue.
Okay, we're going to kind of move on, and then if you have a question that we don't get to because it's already 6:55 and it's getting late, email me. and we'll find out the answer for you. Because there's several about IEPs and anything that you have related to this IEP and all those, your teacher can answer those. Those are part of your sessions. And if you're a typical hearing child, you probably don't need to worry about that. But, yeah.
Also, you can go to AG Bell, the AG Bell website. There is a ton of information. I mean, you can sit there for 3 hours. Just go
Right.
to AG Bell.
So all these little acronyms, 504s, all this stuff, your teacher can explain all of that during your ACT sessions. There's one for Missy that was related to private school. I've heard private schools don't provide FMs. Was that true in your research?
Yes, private schools do not provide FMs. It is up to you to figure out how to get your kids an FM system. We had to supply our own. We are very fortunate though that our school, when they built the new middle school, they had a sound issue in the school. And I actually knew people at the school and they contacted me and I gave them contact information here at Sunshine Cottage. So I was a fortunate person that my school actually has all the panelings you see in the ceiling here. My middle school has those except in the cafeteria and all the classrooms to help with the sound field or the sound buffering and everything to absorb some of the noise. But no, if you pick private, you will have to supply everything.
There was a question real fast about, oh, go ahead.
I'm going not necessarily contradict you because every private school is different.
It is every.
However, under IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, talk to your teachers, there are provisions in some cases where a district will have to provide the equipment or services to the private school. So it is possible, but that's where you need to meet with that child study team and figure out what they're actually needed for and what they need and why you need to meet with your schools in April or May and not wait until next August.
There's another one, and I didn't get a panel person, but going into charter schools. Charter schools are big now, they're up and running, and you can go to any charter school, it doesn't matter what school district you are in. So I know there's BASIS, the North Central, and actually enrollment for that is tomorrow. They're having an open house tomorrow. If you are interested in a charter type of school, there's, what is it, Great Hearts. There's several that are popping up.
But you have to live in certain counties.
But you have to live, she's right, you have to live in certain counties when you do that, but those are great too. Alternatives that are similar to private school but free. They provide a lot of services. I'm sorry? Since charter schools receive public school funding, they are required to do everything. I think I'm going to round it up. If there's any other questions, there's a bunch more, but we don't have time. But I am going to do one last question. The parent had a great question, and it was about, and you can just have one person. What was the biggest shock for your child from leaving here to moving into just a bigger school in general, or just a different environment?
Yeah, the cafeteria in the morning. So she doesn't, we get there now right at 7:30 after that bell. School starts at 7:40, so she doesn't want to go to the cafeteria, it's too noisy. Everybody's there in the morning. So we wait for that bell, and then she goes in and they let her go to class.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I know it took over time, and I appreciate it so much. If y'all have questions, email me. We have raffle tickets we need to give away. There's still people out till 7:30. There is free t-shirts up on the stage and Christmas cards. And I thank y'all. Let me do the raffles. The last one is 5180, 5169,